we are moving on to our next user story. Users can create features within a project. All right, so the description of our user story here is that we have determined names and optional descriptions, so similar to the projects. They have completion statuses, and those completion statuses will be based on the completeness of the user stories. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so we have quite a few developer tasks here, so we are going to get started. All right, so we want a project specific page, okay, with a loader function that gets a project name, description, and list of features with a corresponding user story and tasks, okay? So we don't have the features, user stories, or tasks quite yet, but we will. So what we need to do is we need to add an element here, a route, and we need to say path is going to be /project, and then we're going to do /ID. Okay? Then we're going to add an element, and we are going to call it project. That element does not exist yet, so it's going to error. And then we are going to add a loader function. And I am going to just copy this one from projects, and then we will go ahead and edit it. All right. So I'm going to change this to get user project. Okay. And then I'm going to have to add a parameter onto it here. But I'm actually going to just not worry about it now. And I'm going to add my element. Okay. So I'm going to close those. On page, I'm going to go to and add project.tsx. So we're going to say const project equals, and then we're going to say return project page. All right, I'm going to go ahead and import from Chakra UI, and I'm going to export my component. All right, so now we can import it here. All right, nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look up React router, and then I'm going to look up params. All right, so it looks like I can just use params, and that will tell me what the param is for this ID here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try that. I'm going to say const, and I'm going to say ID is equal to use params. All right, and then I'm going to console.log ID. All right, so let's give this a try here. We are mad. Oh, we don't have a comma here. Okay, so if I just go to /project/1, we're going to be on the project page, and then if we inspect, we will see the ID is 1. So if I change this to 1244, we'll see that that is the ID. Okay, and the idea is that the loader function would go and get that ID. Okay, but we're going to need to create that route on the back end. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to change this here so we can add a variable. Okay, I think I'm going to call this /project/ and then I'm going to do ID. Let's go ahead and see how we use it within okay, so it's using use param within the component. So can we just do ID? Okay. So const ID is equal to use params. Does that work? All right. So we want to do params loader function. All right, loader. Oh, duh. Okay. Sometimes I forget these things as I do them. Okay, so we will pass in the params. Okay, and then we are going to say params.id. Okay, and that's going to send whatever this is in here. Okay, so we want to get the project at that ID. We definitely want to have a token in order to make it guarded from anyone who's not logged in. And then if there's an error based on, if we have a token and it errors, we'll say you have to be signed in, and then otherwise. Okay, that looks good to me, and it will return the data that we have. Okay. So then what I want to do is, it looks like I have my list of projects is ID 2, 3, and 4. So that's good to know. Okay, so we're also going to have to control for if someone does an ID outside of what we have. So that's good to know too, that we're going to need to worry about that. Okay, so let's go to our controller. And we want to copy this one because it's going to be our closest one. And we're going to say get project. Okay, and then we're going to say get project. All right, so then let's look up Nest.js params. All right, then I'm going to search for params. All right, so it's going to be get project/ID. And then we are going to, instead of the request, we are going to do at param. And we're going to say params. Sure, we can start with any. Okay, and then let's go ahead and instead of this, we are just going to console.log params. And params. Okay, so now if I go ahead and sign in, although it looks like we're already signed in, so if I go ahead and do project/1, you can see that my param is 1. Okay, so instead I'm going to change this to params with ID, and then that way we can do ID is number. And then we can just do ID here. So then let's go and look at that. Params 1. Perfect. Okay, so we want to return instead get project, and we want to pass in the ID of the project. So then we'll head to the service file next, and we want to say async get project. Then we want to say ID, which is number. And then we want to say const project is equal to await this dot project service dot. Okay, and then we're going to get project. Well, we're gonna, you know what we want to do? We're gonna want to do this actually. So we want to make sure that the user is only getting the projects that correspond to their user ID, right? Okay, so if I'm just sending in the ID for the project and I'm saying, as long as you're a user, you can get any project ID, then you're gonna end up with, I can get Joe Schmo's project, but I don't want that, okay? So then we're also going to add request and then rec, okay? And then that way we can do rec.user.sub is going to be our user ID, and then we're going to have our ID, okay? So then we're going to say projects, okay? And then we're going to console log projects first. So that way we know what's going on at this step, okay? So let's go ahead and refresh this, and yeah, you should see all of my projects, okay? So now we can filter this based on the ID that we pass in, okay? So then we're gonna say return projects.filter. We're gonna go through each project and we are going to return project.id is equal to ID, okay? So then we are going to, on the project component here, we are going to console log our loader data then. So const data is going to be, so let's just do data here. Use loader data, and then let's do data. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do 2 because we actually have a 2. Okay, so on 2 I get my second project here, perfect. But if I do 1, you can see I have an empty array. Okay, so what we want to do then is we want to add a block here, and we want to say if response.data.length is equal to 0, then we are going to do a toast and a return redirect. I'm going to just say you do not have access to that project. Okay. And then I'm not going to redirect to log in though. I'm probably just going to redirect to projects. Okay. So let's try that. So we want to go to project/2. And it works because we have a project with ID 2. We want to go to project/1, and it says you do not have access to that project. All right, cool. All right, so now we want to, instead of having to type it in the URL, okay, we want to be able to click on a project and then go to that project, okay? So what I want to do first is I actually want to console log my data.projects here because I want to make sure I have the ID, okay? So you can see that, yeah, we have our IDs here in the projects, okay? So in this box, if I click on the box, okay, I want to go to project. All right, which doesn't exist. I get it, React. So const go to project is equal to, okay, we are going to I need to be able to pass in the ID. So I'm going to make it a function like this, and I'm going to say project.id. Okay. And then I'm going to pass it here, project.id. And I'm going to have ID number here. And then I'm going to do const navigate is equal to use navigate. Okay. And then on click, I'm going to do navigate to project/ID, and then I need to turn this to backticks. And it's mad at me about something, but we'll figure it out. Do I have to not pass it in? Is that? All right, let's give that a try now. Okay, so I click on this, project/2, nice. If I click on this, project/3, and we're getting the correct one. All right, project 3, let's do project 4. Perfect, okay. That looks great. All right, so then the next thing that we want to do here is I want to actually go ahead and add a new project and make sure the whole thing works. So I'm going to call this project C, and then this is a description of project C. I'm going to create the project, and then I'm going to go and click, and yep, there we go. Let's make sure that's the right one, and it is. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so I want, when I hover though, that cursor pops up so I can actually know that it's clickable. So I'm going to work on that next. So I think it's on the hover, yeah. And then do I do, maybe I need to do this in quotes. It's been a while since I've done this. Okay, so let's take a look. Yep, that looks good. All right, and then I also feel like I need the background color to be, let's just do like red for now. See if it works, and it does. I want to do this background color though. So I'm gonna do chakra UI accordion button color. I'm curious if we will be able to see it. Button is C, okay. Let's try gray 50 and see if that looks right. So gray.50, and then let's take a look. So that does not look right. It's closer though. All right, so let's see if I can inspect and find the right color. All right, let's see. Let's go to I feel like they should just have this on here somewhere. Let's look at color. And I feel like I'm spending way too much time on this at this point. So, yeah, let's try gray 100, and then we'll see. It's like a different color gray. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. I will Google it later and try to figure that out. But so now we have project C. We click and it goes to the project page and it loads the data for project C. Okay, so let's head back to our user story and see where we are at. We created the project page with a loader function that gets a project's name, description, and a list of features. User stories. All right, we don't have features, user stories, or tasks yet, but that will not be that big of a lift once we do. We did the get project API route. We got a project by ID function. We ended up editing it a little bit, right? So we wanted to make sure we're using the user sub, and then we're filtering by the ID. Okay, so now we are going to be moving on to the front end and the UI for our project page. So I'm going to say this is a good spot to move on to the next video. I'll see you in the next one.